My mother-in-law tried to force me into her church. I used logic and shut it down forever. You know how people say, just go along with it to keep the peace. Yeah, sometimes keeping the peace means surrendering your spine. Because this is the story of how my mother-in-law tried to force her religion on me, how everyone expected me to comply, and how, without raising my voice, without insults, and without drama, I used her own logic to shut the entire thing down permanently. And years later, I found out I was the only person in the family who ever stood up to her. So let's set the stage. My wife and I come from different religious backgrounds. Think Catholic and Evangelical Protestant. But here's the important part. Neither of us was particularly devout. Faith was personal, quiet, something you practiced, or didn't, without forcing it on everyone else. My mother-in-law, however, oh no, she wasn't just religious. She was a zealot, and I mean that in the literal, dictionary sense. She was the self-appointed matriarch of the family, the unquestioned authority, the woman whose word was treated like divine instruction. Everyone tiptoed around her. Everyone complied. Everyone avoided conflict. And her church wasn't just church. It was hardcore evangelical, fire and brimstone, control-heavy, deeply intrusive religion. And I learned that the hard way. Before we were married, back when my wife was still my fiancée, I agreed to attend her church once. Just once. I figured, how bad can it be? That question was answered very quickly. At one point during the service, members of the congregation were asked to stand up and publicly confess their sins in front of everyone. Not metaphorical sins. Not general reflections. Personal. Graphic. Humiliating. And then, it happened. One man stood up and confessed that his sin was that his wife liked sex. That was it. The elders of the church had apparently told him that his wife was wanton. That her desires were sinful. That she was corrupting him. So he announced, out loud, to the congregation, that he had decided to divorce her. Right there. That was my moment. That was the second my brain went. Nope. Never again. I swore I would never step foot in that church again, under any circumstance. Fast forward to after we're married. We go to visit her parents for the weekend. Now, their schedule looked like this. Church Sunday morning. Church Sunday evening. Church Wednesday evening. Religion wasn't part of life. It was life. Sunday morning rolls around, and my mother-in-law asks, "So, when are you getting ready for church?" I politely replied, "No thank you. I'm not of your faith, but I hope you have a good service." That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. She immediately informed me that since I was under her roof, staying in her house, I was required to attend church with the family. Not invited. Required. I calmly explained again that I wasn't comfortable with that. She would not budge. Then the pressure started coming from the side. My wife, clearly uncomfortable, gave me the classic line, "Can't you just go to keep the peace?" And right there, I realized something important. This wasn't about peace. This was about control. And that's when inspiration struck. The kind of inspiration that feels almost divine. I paused. Then I smiled. And I said, "You know what? You're absolutely right." Everyone froze. I continued, "You're completely correct. It is entirely proper and reasonable for the homeowner to set expectations for behavior under their roof." My mother-in-law looked pleased. Victorious. So I kept going. And because I agree with you so completely, I want to be clear about something. When you come to stay in our home, you will be required to attend my church of my faith with my family. You could feel the temperature in the room drop. I wasn't done. I want you to agree, right now, in front of your family and in front of God, that you will attend my church services whenever you visit us. This woman, this hyper-evangelical zealot, looked like I had suggested she drink poison. She sputtered. She deflected. She tried to change the subject. I calmly said, "No, this is important. If your rule is universal, it applies both ways. Here's the thing. We had the only grandchildren, which meant she couldn't simply refuse to ever visit us." She sat there, thinking, calculating, and finally, she cracked. With visible irritation, she announced that attendance at church would no longer be required, for me, or for anyone staying in her home. Not just her church. Any church. Just like that, the rule vanished. The tension evaporated, and for the first time, I felt something incredible. Relief. Validation. Triumph. Years later, my father-in-law pulled me aside and quietly told me, "You know, you're the only son-in-law who ever stood up to her." Apparently, when she visited other family members, they'd hide their booze and weed at the neighbor's house so she wouldn't find it. That's how much control she had. And that's how much they feared rocking the boat. Here's what I learned. You don't have to be loud to be firm. You don't have to be cruel to be effective. And sometimes, the most powerful response isn't anger. It's logic. Because when someone's rules are only meant for you, they fall apart the moment they apply to them. If this story made you smile, or reminded you of someone who needed a reality check, hit that like button. Drop a comment below and tell us, what's the most satisfying moment of quiet revenge you've ever witnessed? And if you enjoy stories where logic wins and bullies lose, subscribe for more. Because sometimes, the best revenge is simply refusing to bend.